Welcome into the lounge presented by DraftKings. We have the pleasure of sitting down with cornerback Brandon Stevens. And on our way up here, we were just talking about how you're going to be playing in a cold weather game here this Saturday. Yeah. And being a Dallas guy who started at UCLA, transferred to SMU, cold weather games, how do you feel about these?
Going to UCLA, like you said, I was a little spoiled, going there. But cold weather, that's football weather. I'm sure they're gonna have the jackets on the sideline, so you'll definitely see me having one of those on.
You hug those heaters, those big blasting heaters.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of. I will say this, all right, and this is easy for me to say as a guy who watches the game from a press box. Okay, so
right. It's a little cushy up there.
Exactly. I'll preface it with that statement, but. The first time I ever got down close to the bench and realized how powerful the heaters are and how hot the benches are, I was like, man, these players, they don't have it all that bad. It's not that bad down there.
You get too close to it, you think you're on fire.
Did you ever see the clip of Ed Reed? His jacket, one of those, those big jackets that you wear?
Yeah.
He got too close to the heater, it literally caught on fire.
Really?
Yeah, man. Well, and he got I think 2 interceptions on the game, so it was the easiest headline ever. Right. It was Ed Reed's on fire. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
But don't do that.
No, I won't get too close. I promise you.
Yeah. So, you're going into this game against Atlanta. You could end up having a big role. Obviously, Marcus Peters goes down last week, and you're kind of next man up there for that spot. What are your thoughts and expectations in that regard?
Yeah, it's it's pretty simple. Just go out there, play my game. You know what I mean? I've been in this position before. Especially last year, taking over when Deshaun got hurt. So just going out there, playing my game, having fun, making plays, and just helping the team win.
Mm-hmm. I like the way that you play, the confidence that you have, and I feel like you have to have that as a DB especially. But it just feels like everybody has balls completed on them. The best cornerbacks do sometimes, and you make plays of your own too.
Right.
How is that a mentality that you've always had, and how do you kind of keep that edge?
Yeah, it's always the next play. You know what I mean? And DB, in that fire, you gotta have confidence. They're gonna make plays. You just gotta make sure that you make more than the man across from you. So that's always a mentality. But every play is a critical play. So
opposite of you have a Pro Bowler, Marlon Humphrey.
Congrats, Marlo, man.
Exactly, pretty cool. But when you go into a game like that, is there any part of your head that's well, they're probably not going to throw as much at Marlon. If they're going to go at anybody here, it's going to be me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm the new guy in there. How do you approach that?
Yeah. I think it was, matter of fact, it was last game when MP got hurt.
Yeah.
We in the huddle, and, Marlo's like, B. Steve, you know what they're going to do. You know what they're going to do. They're going to try you. So, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
I'm up for the challenge, ready for the challenge. So, just ready to roll.
Did they throw any at you, though, after you came in last week? I feel like I thought I saw 0 targets.
Yeah, I don't think they threw to.
Yeah, they needed to. Well, they were too smart for that game.
In a weird way, is that almost like you? One of the things with a corner, you don't necessarily know if it's coming your way, right?
Yeah.
I guess as a defensive player in general, and sometimes you can go and there's not much action in your direction, which is good in its own way, but. Is there almost some excitement knowing hey, I'm going to be involved here?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be coming my way a lot, and I better be ready.
Oh yeah, to be honest with you, no matter the down and distance, I think it's a pass every play. So you always got to be on your toes, and even victory formation, I'm on my toes. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, there's definitely excitement when it comes to that.
Yeah. We talked about this in the locker room the other day, but I've always noticed one of the cool things is, you see players around the building when you're in the cafeteria, and you just kind of notice, whatever, it's part of the perks of being an insider, right?
Right.
And one thing I've always noticed with you is that you're always talking to the wide receiver coaches, and Keith Williams in particular. You're always hanging out with the receivers.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why?
Yeah. One of my mentors back home, shout out Clay Mack. He always told me, man, your best friends should be receivers. Because he always stresses, don't always focus on what DBs are doing. Focus on what receivers are doing.
Right.
Those are the people you're gonna go against. So see what new how they set up routes. What new releases are they doing, right. Stuff like that. So I'm always picking the receivers' brains. The receiver coaches, Coach Dub, all the time. So, and but yeah, just trying to add to my game as much as possible.
He seems like he likes to talk a little smack too. That
He
after
does.
practice, you two kind of.
Yeah, you got to set him in his place, every now and then. So yeah, I love it.
So you've kind of had an interesting path in that you started on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that probably has a factor in your development. And as you're talking about kind of studying receivers and talking with the receivers coaches, you also, I think, probably have a little bit of a leg up because you started on the offensive side of the ball. You were a running back, and you started your college career as a running back. Did you tell me in high school? Did you play both ways in high school the whole time, or what?
Nah, I just played running back in high school.
Really?
Wow,
You didn't
okay.
even play defense in high school?
None. Actually, I take that back. The only time I did play DB was 7-on-7 in the summertime.
Okay.
Low on numbers, they needed a DB, so I said I'm the guy for it.
That's funny.
Interesting. Yeah. So like, tell me your senior year of high school. How many yards you put up on the ground?
Oh, I was close to 2,000.
Woo.
Yeah. I think I was maybe 200 yards shy, something like that.
This is 1,800 yard season in Dallas. Was this big time high school football? I mean,
in Dallas.
well, like
anywhere in Texas is big time football.
exactly.
Yeah, y'all know that.
I mean, but it's like I'm sure Friday nights that was the place to be in town.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, student section going crazy. The whole city's at the game. Stands are full. There's really nothing better than Texas football, in my opinion.
Right.
And I'm always stand on that.
Yeah, I think you have this pretty solid ground to stand on right there. So then you go to UCLA as a running back, all right? And so how did the transition start to take place to switch to the defensive side of the ball? Like, what was the first time that someone suggested, let's go ahead and see you on the defensive side?
Shoot, honestly, right when I got to UCLA, the DB coach, Coach Meek, he was trying to recruit me to his side since the first day I came, and my running backs coach was, always giving him a hard time, like he's not going anywhere, he's staying with the running backs, blah blah blah, and so it was really my going into my third year. When I, really decided that, playing DB, playing defense was where my heart was at. And, man, I just it was in my heart, and I took off and ran with it, started training at it back in L.A. And during, I was still taking summer classes at UCLA and, just ready for my opportunity at SMU.
How did that get in your heart?
Man, God just put it on my heart, I felt like that was what was best for me. And, I definitely enjoyed my time playing running back. Still kind of miss it a little bit. I'm trying to see if they're going to, give me some carries in the near future. So
we have to get short.
Yeah. But yeah, man, God just put it on my heart, and, I listened to him and, just took it from there.
Was there a part of you, I'm sure, when you're a high school running back putting up 1,800 yards in Texas and you're getting D1 offers and going to UCLA, like you have these dreams of being an NFL running back probably, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
What guys did you look up to when you were a kid? Like, was it running backs?
Oh, yeah, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Devin Hester was one of my favorite just because he was taking everything to the house.
Right.
Man, almost every running, Marion Barber, being from Dallas,
right.
He was one of my favorite running backs growing up. So yeah,
but that had to make it kind of hard. I imagine that had to be hard to give that dream up ultimately.
Yeah, it was, just because I, played that position for so long.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and I was really going into unfamiliar territory.
Right.
Playing DB.
It's a leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I knew what I was leaving behind, but I also knew what was, in the future. And so, when I made that switch, I put everything, all eggs in that basket, and train day in, day out. There was times, I was training at the facility at 9 o'clock at night at UCLA, pitch black, no lights on.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's awesome. And then how did it come to be that SMU was willing to take that gamble on you as a corner, when you hadn't played in a game like that? Can you tell us about how that all worked out?
Yeah, actually my high school coach, Coach McCullough, great coach, he actually got me in touch with the DB coach, Coach Curtis at SMU. He's now at Baylor. But, Coach Curtis, he basically told me, and I had no film either.
Right.
So I had to make a little clip of me working out, doing some DB drills, which I look back on now, and it's like, was terrible. It was terrible, but yeah, he said, come to we'll invite you to training camp. Just show 2 things: you can cover, tackle, and you'll make the team. If not, we'll have to find you somewhere else to go. So I just needed the opportunity, and it gave it to me. Rest is history.
Sorry, real quick on the transition, was part of the reason that you just felt like you were a better DB? Or like it sounds like when you were making the transition, you weren't like, based on what you're kind of saying there, it's not like you made the transition. You're like, wow, this guy's a stud DB. Like it sounds like you still felt like you were maybe even a better running back. Like what was your thought at that time? Did you feel like you were going to be a better defensive player, and that's part of the reason, or not?
Yeah, I was honestly at UCLA. I was one of those kids that after practice, I'm doing one-on-ones with the receivers. You know what I mean? And I always just felt comfortable covering. And so, I knew in my heart that I could be a very good DB. And so, although it was, unfamiliar territory, I knew that training was going to take care of anything, and everything. So, but yeah, to go to your point, I believe that I would definitely be a better DB. For sure.
Did you have to reshape your body completely?
Oh man, I had to lose some weight.
Wait, because you're like 6 foot, right?
Yeah.
You're 6 foot. And what'd you weigh before the transition?
I was 225.
Okay.
Running back.
I mean, you're basically that like Adrian Peterson type, big.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like the Latavius Murray here last year, like a big running back. Like that was
right.
Yeah, I was 225, almost pushing 230. And man, when I went to training camp at SMU, I got down to about 206, 207.
Okay.
Right.
So I was, man, in LA, I was eating nothing but spinach and salmon every night.
At all the vegan spots in LA.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
So when you went to SMU, you initially didn't even have a scholarship?
No, I went as a walk-on.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, are you thinking like, if we're going back in time here, if I were to tell you, at that point, in a few years, you are
You're going to
be a 3rd round pick, probably starting in a December game for the Baltimore Ravens, in place of Marcus Peters
at corner.
At corner,
Right.
What would you say?
Man, I would say 2 things, man. One, shoot, God is good. And second, I probably wouldn't believe.
Would or would not?
I probably wouldn't.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't. But I wouldn't doubt it though.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But nah, man, it's a blessing to be in this position. I always look back on the journey, and I always talk to my mom, my sister, and they always say it could look a lot different. Just thinking back on if I didn't make the switch, how would life look? So I think about that all the time, and but yeah, I'm truly blessed, as we all are, and just grateful for everything.
So how long did it take once you started playing corner at SMU that you were just strapping dudes up?
You said how long?
How long did it take? Like, was there a pretty? I mean, obviously, you weren't there very long before you became a 3rd round pick, so you had some instant success.
Yeah.
But like, when you started out in practice, did you know like the first couple practices, like, oh yeah, this is gonna work out, or was it like, oh, what did I do? You know what I mean?
I remember I didn't know coverages. Only thing I knew was man.
Yeah.
I didn't know what cover 3 was.
Right.
Didn't know how to play cover 2. So I think the first couple reps, they just said, go in here, it's a man play. We'll teach you the rest later in meetings.
Right.
And I remember it was a deep post. I forgot who it was on, but they threw the post, broke it up, and I was lit. I was lit. You would have thought it was a Saturday game, prime time. But yeah, I knew immediately after that first practice. It was the very first practice. I was like, I can do this.
That's awesome.
Just let me learn the playbook. The rest take care of itself.
Did you ever match up? Was Pro there at the same time?
Oh, all the time.
Okay, so
All
you
the
two
time.
were always matched up.
Oh yeah, we going against each other one-on-ones, running it back. If he makes a catch, we would be in one-on-ones for almost 2-3 periods. Just going at it. But yeah, we and other receivers. Reggie Roberson. A lot of other guys.
Yeah.
So you end up getting drafted by the Ravens in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Were you expecting that this could be a place? Did you expect to go in the third round? Take me through draft weekend.
Yeah, draft weekend, it was a little crazy, as it always is,
Right.
which you never really understand what that means until you go through it. But, at the end of the second, obviously I'm a little frustrated. Third comes, now it's getting late, and I've got family there and whatnot. And I remember I went into my kitchen and, got some food. And my DB coach's wife was in the kitchen with me, just talking to me, trying to calm me down a little bit. And so we were talking a few minutes, and she left, and I'm in the kitchen by myself, phone's on the counter, and then I see it light up, and it says Baltimore, and ran to the living room, tell my family to quiet down, and start talking to Coach Harbaugh and DeCosta. But, people don't know, but, Baltimore has definitely been one of my favorite teams, growing up. Obviously, I'm from Dallas, grew up watching the Cowboys, but, Baltimore, just watching Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and everybody, I knew that, I knew the history that this place has, great organization. But yeah, I've been a fan from the jump. I actually, I remember in Little League, I scored a touchdown once and did the Ray Lewis dance. So, but yeah.
Nice.
That's
and then what was it like here? I mean, so you go from running back to corner, and then you come here, and it's like, well, we're gonna play at safety. So,
I remember I was like, what position is this guy?
Were you like, good golly, can I be in one place? What was that like for you last year as a rookie?
Yeah, it was. It's another unfamiliar territory. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm used to it now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just going from corner in college to safety to nickel early in the season, now to corner.
Right.
I knew it was going to be a learning curve, but just they told me just day one, just stick to it, stick to the playbook, and always learn. Never think you know the playbook as well as you think you do, and just ready for the moment. Obviously I had to fill in pretty early in the season, and fill a huge role in the defense. So it was definitely a challenge, but I think I handled it pretty well.
Right, yeah. Were you happy when they signed Marcus Williams and drafted Kyle Hamilton? You're like, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to corner now.
Yeah. Nah, it was. I saw those guys that we added them in the offseason, and I was watching Marcus when he was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Was always a big fan of his, ball hawk. And then Kyle, knew a little bit of him coming out of college. But they're both playmakers, doing great things for this team. And, they'll continue to do them. And, shoot, I'm just happy to be on the field with them.
Right, and that, I mean, at this point, you feel like we were talking the other day, like you feel like a corner now. Like, you know what I mean? Like you've been playing there all summer. Like you feel I'm a cornerback.
Yeah. I feel good at it. Yeah, shoot, I've been playing corner since training camp now.
Yeah.
And so, feel good at it, feel confident. But at the end of the day, I think of myself as a DB, not just a corner.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But yeah.
So, Mike McDonald talked a little bit about you yesterday and said one of the things that he loves about you is the confidence that you play with and you compete. And I see that too. Like you don't seem to shy away from big situations, and I think that probably speaks to some of the kind of the transitions that you've made in your career. Can you tell me a little bit about that, like competitive nature that you have on the field?
Yeah, I mean, this is the game, we've been playing since we were little kids, and, that's why we play it, is to compete, you know what I mean? And, I think the people that love this game the most compete the hardest, you know what I mean? And so, I just enjoy the one-on-one matchups, I enjoy the doubt, all the naysayers and he said, she said, and but yeah, that's why we play the game, is to compete and just have fun and win. At the end of the day.
Cool.
So, Brandon, the last one I've got for you. In when you go into this DB room,
Uh-huh.
a lot of big personalities. Okay.
Oh yeah.
In this room, I mean, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, like big personalities.
Right.
In that room, you're a soft-spoken guy. Okay. Like, so how do you kind of just fly in the wall, let everything else unfold? Do you get in the mix in some of those debates or discussions, or what's your approach?
I'm the guy in the back that's usually looking at Marlo act a little crazy, Marcus act a little crazy. I'm just, I'm just there. You know what I mean?
Bystander.
Yeah. But no, we have fun. It's a great group of guys. I love being in the meeting room with them. They always make it fun. Make every meeting fun. So, but yeah, I love those guys, man. Those are my boys.
But on the field, how much trash talk comes out of Brandon Stevens' mouth?
Every now and then.
You get those competitive juices outside of a meeting room.
Yeah. I'm a different guy on the field than I am, in a setting like this. But yeah, they got to come out every once in a while.
And last one for me, just like what does it feel like for you when you're on an island? It's one-on-one man press coverage. What's that feeling like for you?
Man, the best way to describe it is, you in the fire. It feels like you're in the fire, you know what I mean? And you got to stand 10 toes in the fire, so because you never know. You just got to just win the rep. That's the only thing that's in my mind, win the rep.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm sure you're going to win a lot of reps this Saturday, man. Hey,
yes, sir.
We're rooting for you.
Yes,
All
right. Thank
you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right, really enjoyed the conversation with Brandon. It was kind of fun to get in his backstory. And before we continue the conversation here, looking ahead to the game against the Falcons, we want our listeners to know that the sports landscape is always changing, and this week is no different. DraftKings is a leader in daily fantasy sports, and it still has daily fantasy contests running for those who are looking to have skin in the game. It's simple. Every player has a salary associated with drafting them. You assemble a lineup of players, and you try to stay under the salary cap as you watch your points pile up. Now you know how to play. Download the DraftKings app today. Sign up using the code FLOCK. New users get a free entry with their first deposit. Again, that code is FLOCK. Sign up today at DraftKings.
Yep. So how are you feeling about this Falcons game?
I feel like it's going to be probably another low-scoring game. I mean, we can use the same lines that we've used like the past couple games. Race to 17, race to 14.
Right.
I think that's probably
right. Just keep lowering that number.
Yeah. Race to double digits. I think it's probably one of those types of games. Like I don't really see either team going over 20 points.
Yeah. I think it could be the fastest game in NFL history.
Running clock.
There's going to be a running clock, a lot of running plays.
It's kind of like I've been watching the World Cup, right, as most people have, and like one thing that I appreciate about
no commercials,
no stoppage. It's just like you get that first half. It's basically 2 hours and you're out of there. Okay, it's kind of a nice thing about soccer.
We got some presents to wrap. We got some cookies to bake for Santa. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So getting back early, I'm not opposed. Not opposed to that.
Christmas Eve.
Exactly.
It could be a very fast game. Lots of running. I don't think this is going to be an offensive shootout. I think that the Ravens' recipe to win this game is going to be run. I just think that's going to be what the recipe is.
Well, obviously, there's, I don't think fans are going to be upset with that after all the clamoring that's been going on this past week. And Greg Roman, came up and said, like, in retrospect, probably could have run some more. And could have probably went into the pass script a little bit early in that game with about 10 minutes left or whatever, trailing by 10. So I expect that it'll be run. I don't think they're going to throw the ball, 30 times. I don't think they're going to throw it 5 times. But I think that it will be heavily shaded towards the run, not only because I think that's really, A, what's working best for the Ravens offense, B, the weather is another factor in that. It's going to be...
Can I throw a C in there too?
The Falcons defense?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, they haven't been great against the pass either. I think they've been worse against the pass than they have the run. But yeah. I think that's the formula for success. And then given all the other factors, Lamar Jackson being out, obviously Duvernay goes down, one of your top wide receivers. I think the script here is run the ball a lot until they can stop you.
Yeah.
And I expect that the Ravens will probably go down that path, just like the Falcons. The Falcons are third in the league running the ball. So, like we're saying, they're going to run the ball a lot too.
Yeah, and the difference there, although the Falcons have a good running offense, is that the Ravens have a really good running defense. So while the Ravens have a great rushing offense, Falcons don't have a great rushing defense. if the Falcons are going to try to run the ball, which I would expect that they do, they got a rookie quarterback making a second start on the road, tough environment, in a place that historically has been very unfriendly to rookie quarterbacks.
In single-digit temperatures with a howling wind.
Yeah, I think that is not going to be a game where they're going to have Desmond Ridder throw the ball 40 times.
No.
I don't think that's going to be their recipe. Okay?
No.
So I think that this is going to be kind of like an old school who wins the battle in the trenches type game.
And a lot of it, honestly, when it comes, and this is what we've seen over the last several weeks, is in a low-scoring game like this, what matters is, do you convert in the red zone, right? And can you get some turnovers, right? Those two things matter a lot. And that's, like we've been talking about, for the Ravens offense right now, they're moving the ball okay, right? But if you're not going to score in the red zone, if you're kicking field goals all the time, or even worse, turning the ball over, that really hampers you when you're not a quick strike offense.
Well, and the game is shorter. You have fewer possessions.
Exactly. You have to maximize.
If you're having a 7-minute possession that ends with you getting stopped at the 10-yard line on 4th down,
right?
Well, then that's not good.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden every possession takes on even more significance. And I think that the vibe I got in listening to John Harbaugh and Greg Roman this week, it's like they go down 10, and it was like, okay, with the way this is going, last week, they're going to have to change something up to score quickly because you don't have time for 2 7-minute drives.
Right.
Obviously, it didn't work, but I think that was the thought process behind that. And so I think that in this game, you can't. Of course, getting turnovers is always good. Like, if you can get turnovers, great. I don't think getting turnovers is as important as not
turning
the ball away. I mean, I think that's
for sure.
That's more
the Ravens
critical.
are a favored team in this game.
Yeah.
Right. So generally speaking, when you're the favored team, don't turn the ball over. You should probably win.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, but all of a sudden, if you get stopped in the red zone a couple times and you get into the 20 and you get a holding penalty and you whatever, those things happen. You get stopped on 4th down, then that's going to be where you find yourself in trouble. But Greg Roman also said this week that we're kind of moving towards J.K. and Gus, basically riding them in a big way down the stretch here. Kind of move.
Sign me up.
And I think that's going to be the recipe. I mean, J.K.'s been one of the best running backs in the NFL the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the best, and he's still not all the way there.
His runs over expected average, I think he's been the best.
And he would have a couple of touchdowns in the stat column if he could get that top gear, and he's not there yet. And he's been open about that. So, but his vision, his ability to find the hole, his ability to break a tackle and get 8 yards instead of 2, all of that is really significant. And I love what I'm seeing from JK right now.
Yeah. So I think obviously a big storyline in going into this game is how do the Ravens replace Devin Duvernay? They lost him to a foot injury. John Harbaugh said it's a broken metatarsal. And so how do the Ravens adjust to that? And obviously they brought in Sammy Watkins on the same day. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think Sammy's going to, he knows the playbook. He's been here. I don't think it's this long ramp-up period. I think there's potential for it to be the Ravens signed JPP that 1 week earlier in the season. Then he played 80% of the snaps.
Right.
I don't know that Sammy's going to play that 80%, but it wouldn't surprise me if he played 50% of the snaps. So I think that he's going to be kind of thrown right into the fire. And then I think that, they're going to run the ball a lot. I mean, they could try to call somebody up for the practice squad. They could try to call up Shamar Bridges. They could try to call up Andy Isabella.
Right.
Those are other options that are already here. So maybe the Ravens go that route to try to help out in that regard. Maybe James Prochet takes on a larger role. He played, 3 snaps last week?
Right. Well, really what you're missing a lot with Duvernay out of the offense is that speed kind of option, the jet sweep threat, that the Ravens have used with success even when they don't hand it to him.
Yeah.
It's been that threat that holds a linebacker or whatnot, moves the linebacker out of that gap. And so if the opponent doesn't respect whoever's coming on that jet sweep as much, because obviously everybody around the league knows Devin Duvernay is one of the fastest dudes in the league, if they don't respect that as much, you lose a little bit, right? And John Harbaugh said today, the Ravens aren't taking any plays out of the playbook. So they feel confident whoever's going to be running that jet sweep or whatever is going to be a respected dude. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, I thought that was a little interesting wrinkle.
Yeah. Look, I think, I just don't know who that is. I mean, Devin's a kind of a special talent in that regard.
Right.
And he's a Pro Bowler. He won his 2nd straight Pro Bowl. He's one of the best return men in the league. So when he gets the ball in space and he can get up to top speed, that's a threat that is hard
to replicate.
place.
Yeah.
So I don't know. like they may not take anything out, but I'm curious if they run that a little bit less.
Yeah, certainly possible. And maybe the tight ends take on a little bit of a larger role.
That was a question I got in mailbag is like, are the tight ends going to...
We got that question to the lounge, too. I think our guy, Pradeep.
Okay.
Yeah.
The tight ends are already pretty darn important on this team. Like, the Ravens run more multiple tight end sets than any other team. That's been, like, the staple of this offense. So, like, can you get much more tight end? Can you lean more on the tight ends? Like, you're going to have wide receivers on the field.
I think they're saying, like, throwing to them.
I think a guy who I could see maybe get a few more targets is Isaiah Likely. Okay? So, I think he's...
Or Oliver. You know,
maybe.
like you're going to have Oliver in the game a lot because you're running the ball so much. Is he that kind of the play action? You know, the play action passing game hasn't been good. Maybe Oliver gets one or two more throws his way because you're setting up that run so heavy with him in there, and then you dump it off to him and take him by surprise. Maybe
that's it. I like Likely's ability to add a little bit more juice to the passing game.
He's definitely more of a receiving threat.
Yeah.
Than Josh Oliver is. But I'm just saying you're going to be putting out a lot of packages that you can run the ball out of or throw the ball out of, or at least make them think that you're going to run the ball.
It sounds
That's
like
going to be the whole thing.
You doubt Isaiah Likely's ability as a blocker. Remember when his press conference was at Jacksonville or Tampa Bay? I
think Josh Oliver is a better blocker now than Isaiah Likely.
Isaiah Likely came in and he had the top blocking grade on the team. That game.
Yeah.
He said, they were giving me a hard time in practice about my blocking ability. I think not giving
a hard time. I'm just saying I think Josh Oliver is ahead of him right now in that department.
I think that Likely can add. Maybe I'll be wrong here, but as the Ravens look for ways to jumpstart their passing offense, they're considering everything. And now you lose Duvernay, you can insert Sammy Watkins. Maybe he can make some clutch plays like he did early last season. Mm-hmm. Maybe Deshaun Jackson can hit a big play or two.
Gets harder and harder the later we get into December, man.
Yeah, I think Likely could be kind of an X factor as you look to provide some juice in the pass game.
I have some strong feelings about the Sammy Watkins move. Okay. And Twitter is not a very nice place right now to be, just in generally speaking. It's a dark place right now on Ravens Twitter. But obviously I know that Sammy Watkins isn't the receiver that fans have wanted for a long time, right? And adding Sammy Watkins only seems to pour more salt in the wound to the notion that the Ravens didn't do enough to fortify their wide receiver core this season or the off season, right? I understand all that, and I'm not arguing against that at all. All I'm saying is in the Ravens' current circumstances, I think that we and the Ravens should all actually feel quite lucky that Sammy Watkins became available, right? Like, who else is out there? It was pretty much like the best case scenario of somebody that could just fall in your lap right when you have another wide receiver go down with a potentially season-ending injury. Right? Like, that was pretty much the best case scenario. Already knows the playbook. Okay, I know Sammy Watkins hasn't been, the 1,000-yard guy that he was his first 2 seasons, but like an accomplished receiver in this league to some degree, whatever you want to call that, right? The guy's literally nicknamed Playoff Sammy, okay? He's made some clutch play. That's because he helped the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. You know how everybody's talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and how he helped the Rams win a Super Bowl last year because he got hot near the end of the year? That was what Sammy Watkins did for the Chiefs. Was 2 or 3, 4 or 5? I don't know how many years. He did that, right? The guy's earned Playoff Sammy nickname for a reason. So, like, we're all sitting here talking about, like...
Odell had more of it. I mean, Sammy's made...
Sammy had, like, over 100 yards...
Some clutch catches.
In the AFC Championship game that year, and then the Super Bowl made, like, the biggest play of the game to win it.
Sammy's made... Look, I think that he shows up in big moments. He did that for the Ravens.
Exactly, and that's the other thing. Like, look... No receiver that you're bringing in, and I know maybe people who really want Odell Beckham might disagree with this, but no receiver the Ravens are bringing in right now is going to catch 8 to 10 balls a game. That's not the Ravens' offense right now. We're all saying run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Like, that's what they're going to continue to do, right? So really all you're asking of Sammy Watkins, it's a low bar. We're asking to make 1 to 2 plays a game. You know what I mean? And, like, I think Sammy Watkins can do that. Like, I kind of trust at 3rd and 7, and I need to move the chains. Sammy Watkins is kind of high on my list of the Ravens receivers of who I'd be throwing the ball to.
Yeah, Mark Andrews is probably number 1.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Sammy is probably
DeMarcus, Sammy.
Right.
I mean, he's up there, and so like I just feel like it's a good move, that the Ravens claimed him off of waivers. And like I said, I'm not expecting him to light the world on fire, but like I think when all is said and done, we could all be sitting here saying like, man, Sammy didn't put up he didn't top 50 yards, but he made a couple big time catches.
Look, he could have 4 for 50, and then you're like,
that was a great day for Sammy.
And one of them is 25 yards on third down.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, that was a great move.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's success for Sammy Watkins in the Ravens offense right now.
Just like we talked about this year with Deshaun Jackson, is like, you got him to make like 3 50-yard plays.
Exactly.
Like you
have basically these like specialists, and you're like, you play your role and just do it once a game or twice a game. I'll be cool with that.
Yeah.
You do yours. If everybody plays their role in this passing game, because it's not going to be a high octane like. There's no trade that the Ravens can make right now. There's nobody that they can sign. Maybe you can argue Odell Beckham aside or whatever, but his health is very much the Cowboys haven't signed him for a reason, right? I
mean, look, like Odell is a dynamic player, but he hasn't signed anywhere yet, and there's reports that he may wait until the next year to sign.
Exactly. So that's very much up in the air. It's very much a question mark. So anyway, I'm just saying, like, nobody out there is going to all of a sudden, any receiver is going to come solve the Ravens passing offense. So, like, getting these guys that you can plug into certain roles, if they can fulfill that role, and it's not like a huge role, you're not asking a ton of them, then that is, I think, can be a successful enough passing offense that it complements what is an outstanding rushing attack right now. The passing game just has to complement it. It doesn't have to be the driver. It just has to be proficient enough to be a complement.
Yeah, totally.
And keep the defense on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So, as always, you can email us at thelounge@ravens.nfl.net. We did get one email that we want to read about playoff seeding and situations. Just if you're not, I'm not going to run through all of them here. There's 10 different scenarios, okay? There's 10 scenarios.
9 of which the Ravens have to win or tie.
Yeah.
I don't think the one in which they lose is probably going to come true.
There's like 15 things, including like a tie or something. Like the Browns are involved, the Chargers are somehow involved. It's like all this stuff.
Exactly. This one comes from Brian Schultz. He says, fellas, looking for solace in a dismal stretch. It's so funny. A dismal lost one game. It's I feel you, though. I feel you, Brian. Been on Ravens Twitter. Dismal, like I said. It's unlikely the Ravens win the North, but all things considered, the 5th seed looks like the prize. I'll take the Titans any day over KC, the Bills, Dolphins, or Bengals. So let's all hope the Jags don't give us any surprises. Maybe the Ravens figure it out by the divisional round. Trying to stay positive, but it gets harder each week of lackluster offensive output. Keep up the good work.
Well, I've seen this.
He's in
out
Mexico,
there.
by the way.
I've seen this a fair amount. And my take on this is, well, first of all, it wouldn't be the Chiefs. The Chiefs are,
Yeah, what he's saying is he doesn't feel like, even if the Ravens don't win the division, if they get the 5th seed, they would play the 4th seed. Right, they would play the division winner with the worst record, which looks like it would be the Titans or the Jags.
Then they
so he's basically saying,
likely.
Right? He's saying like, okay, even if we don't win the division, I'll take the Titans in the wild card round.
Yeah, or maybe
in
Tennessee,
Tennessee,
or maybe
Jacksonville.
Which,
but he's rooting for Tennessee. He said, I don't want any surprises by the Jags,
which is possible.
Right?
That's not.
Jags are playing good football.
And depending on how the Ravens finish, they wouldn't necessarily be locked into the 5th seed.
Sure.
Depends how the season plays out.
Obviously. Right now, that's where they are. But
yes. I also think it's fair to ask, what would you prefer? Would you prefer home against the Chargers or the Bengals or the Dolphins? Or would you prefer
the Jets
road,
or the Patriots or whatever?
Road against the Titans? I think that's a fair question.
I think it is too.
I generally like the home playoff game.
I mean, home playoff games are very fun.
Yeah, home playoff games are awesome.
The whole reason is because the Titans have lost, 3 straight?
Yeah, and they're
or
not
4 straight.
Well,
they faded like hard.
It's
and
more
so
than
people
that.
are like, maybe the Titans. I'll take the Titans in the first. That's the whole reason this conversation is.
I also think that part of it is like they don't have the dynamic offense. Like
they're a run heavy offense. The Ravens have a run. It's Derrick Henry focused. The Ravens have a good run defense.
To use the theme that we've talked about, that could be a race to 14.
Yeah, I think that's a matchup. The matchup there is better for the Ravens than probably, let's say, the Chargers, who are a high passing attack. The Dolphins, obviously, we've seen that. Now, let's not forget the Ravens had a pretty sizable lead on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have been in kind of scuffling a little bit as of late, too. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not going into the whole seeding thing quite yet. Let's lock it up first. Lock up the playoff
Just
spot.
get in first?
Yeah, just get in first, and then once we're in there, then I'll start talking about, is it better to lose with that team? Is it better to... and the division is still very much up in play.
Yeah.
I know you guaranteed that we were going to win the division like 3 weeks ago. Stamped it. give you the big point. The big point. I still think that's very much in play. I also think it's not outlandish to think that the Ravens could win the next two. I know the Bengals are hot. They could lose the next two. They play the Patriots and then the Bills. Not out of the possibilities that they could drop next two. If they drop next two and the Ravens win next two, and you go in Cincy, week 18. Oh, feels good. Feels good. Got locked up. That's what you're like going to. I would love that.
That'd be a nice feeling.
Oh, that'd be a wonderful feeling.
And that would change the tenor of Ravens Twitter.
Yes, it very much would. Anyway, thank you for listening, and get ready for the big win over the Falcons. Let's get it. Lock it up. Lock it up.